You'll be empowered.
Welcome to Empowering Moments with Coach T. I am your host, Toria Reneé, and I am known to all of my journey walkers as Coach T. And you are listening right here on IntellectualRadio.com. This is the show that provides a fresh perspective on life's challenges, giving you information that is valuable today and years to come so that you can walk out your very best journey to becoming your very best self. All right. So, for those of you who may not know, I am Coach T, a women's empowerment coach, motivational speaker, relationship coach, wedding officiant, best-selling author of uh, Lord Networkology, and of course, a radio personality right here on IntellectualRadio.com. You are tuned into the second show in the Sistahs Speak segment series, where we gear the conversation to all things women and the challenges that we face. The purpose is, as always, is to empower the ladies to improve, learn, and grow so that they are showing up the very best version of themselves on a daily basis. Ladies, today I want to turn the conversation to women's safety and the defense options of firearms ownership. And today, with me, helping me unpack this whole concealed and carry thing, is none other than Javondalyn M. Dunnigan. Let me tell y'all something about this woman, okay? I didn't even realize this myself. She is the founder and CEO of JMD Defense, LLC, located in Chicago, Illinois. She is a retired U.S. probation officer in as of January 2016 after a distinguished 25-year career. Okay. So as a safety educator, Javondalyn is passionate about training professionals, businesses, and nonprofit organizations in workplace safety and emergency operation procedures. Javondalyn is also a certified firearms instructor, range safety officer, and a distinguished expert shooter. All right. With the NRA marksmanship program, Javondalyn has been featured on NBC News with Carol Marine. Yes, okay. Newsy, the Jim Jeffries show, NRA-TV, and in Black Enterprise Magazine, and also Rolling Out Magazine, the Chicago Tribune, the Daily Mail, and has conducted several radio interviews. So she is not new, not even to intellectual radio. Okay, you guys have seen her before, you just may not have remembered. She is a leading authority on safety education strategies. Javondalyn is the founder and president of the JMD Angels Foundations, which was awarded $52,000 in scholarships. Has awarded $52,000 in scholarships to Chicagoland area students attending colleges across the United States. She holds a master's degree in social work. Hey, so she's educated too. I gotta tell you, from the University of Chicago Schools and Social Service Administration. She also holds a Bachelor of Social Work degree from Hampton University. She is a member of the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Javondalyn is also a Goldman Sachs 10K small business alumni member. Okay. Thank you so much for being with me. Help me welcome Miss
Thank you.
John Javondalyn. How are
Thank you.
you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you
Good,
for that
good.
introduction.
No, when I read it, I was like, ah, I got to tell the people about this because this is great, right? Um, so one of the things I want to make sure that I'm doing is I want to talk about safety for women. I want to make sure that we know, because a lot of times I think we talk about conceal and carry and we just want to go get the license and be cute, right?
Hmm.
But I want to make sure that we're doing more, the other pieces to that, because there's so much more that happens after you get the license, right? So, I want to talk a little bit about the business first because I want people to understand how you came to be in this. So, you said that one of your biggest challenges was in safety is being an African American woman, female in this role. But how did the business start? How did you come to the business?
So, when I was a probation officer, early in 1990, they didn't require that you carry a firearm. And so I was afraid of guns. And, they said you didn't have to carry one. So I said, okay. So, what I did, I used my brain whenever I went out in the field, whenever I interacted with our federal offenders. And I tried to make sure that I used situational awareness to my advantage. For those individuals that do not carry firearms, you have to think about the other options that are available. And so when I got close to retirement, I said I would like to learn how to shoot a gun and not be afraid. And I went through the training through the federal, our federal program, and found out that I loved shooting. I was afraid, and then I realized that there's something different when women are learning about firearms, and I saw a difference in the women officers as opposed to the men. The men, it seemed more like a competition. And for the women, we felt it looked like sponges. They wanted to learn more. How do I get better? So when I retired, I couldn't find anybody to go to the gun range with me. I wanted to practice, and I started going to the gun range, and I never saw any other women. And that's what was really weird. And so I also realized that after people purchase guns, there's really no follow through after that. You can get a FOI card, buy a gun, and then there's no mandatory training. There's no incentive to continue to go shooting. And that's how one of the reasons I opened up the business and started the Ladies Gun Club.
I love that because you're absolutely right. You can get a foot. You can do everything that needs to be done and have no skill.
That's right.
None, and not be required to have skill. I'm like, everything else they make you go through training for, but when you can just buy a gun and be like, okay, well, yeah, happy trails, go shoot somebody.
Exactly.
What?
And that's across the country. You can purchase a firearm and not be mandated, for the most part, to have any kind of training. Now, to carry it, every day, 24 hours a day, obviously you need training. But in some states, they're permitless carry. And again, they buy a gun and they can carry their firearm. But Illinois is different, which is good.
I mean, I have my license, like so I'm concealed and carry, so I have my license.
Mhm.
I've done the classes. I have not purchased a weapon because, yeah, I'm not sure what. I think I'm not sure what I want. I think that's my issue, and we're gonna get to that. But I want to talk a little bit about what it has been like being a Black woman in this field. What has that been like?
So, for one, you really don't see a lot of women firearm business owners. So, having that role model as someone I could call and say, "Hey, how do I do this?" I really didn't have that. I just kind of fell into a mentor who happened to be a white man. He was my instructor prior to me becoming an instructor. I had called to find a NRA, they're called training counselors, so that the people that were going to work for me could get trained first. I didn't need to be an instructor initially. And he said, send your people to me. He was well regarded in the field, but he said, if you're learning the business, you can come sit right beside me. And he literally mentored me and showed me the business. And I would sit right beside him in his classes. And this was way in Dundee, Illinois.
Wow.
Then I eventually found the time to take the class. He taught me, and he still is a mentor to me. His name happens to be Lynn Garnan, and they call me Lynn for short. So we had this instant connection. But
Cute.
he was, I believe, a former federal officer, and he was amazing. But I did not find there were no other Black women that I could find in Chicago that had started this business. So I was really a trailblazer from that standpoint.
Wow, that is huge. And I'm listening to you because that's really, really huge, because I feel like a lot of times as African Americans, period, men and women, especially when we move into entrepreneurship, we find ourselves in fields that are not necessarily dominated by us.
Yes.
So we don't necessarily always have a mentor that we can look to and say, hey, how do you do it? And if you do, they're untouchable.
Yes.
You know what I mean? They're not accessible to you. And I think that's one of the bigger issues that we're actually finding too. So when it comes, one of the things that you said is you talked a little about the greatest learning experience was the first year as you were attempting to close a sale. You realized that you were allowing people to take up too much of your time.
Yes. So, I get a lot of press the first year. Over my entire 8 years of being in business, I got a lot of press, and people would call to try to sell me any and everything that they thought I needed related to firearms, and especially when they heard that I had a gun club. So what I would do, unbeknownst to me that this was such a waste of time, I figured it out later. I would let people come and do a presentation. It's only going to take 10 minutes, 15 minutes, which would turn into an hour. So I got pretty savvy and would tell them, send me a proposal. I'll look it over and then I'll get back to you. And that turned into the best thing that I could think of to reclaim my time. And when fellow business people approach me about any advice that I give them, I tell them that, because I did waste a lot of time with people selling things to me that they thought I needed, only for me to say, no, I don't think I can afford that, or I don't want that.
Right. You know what? That's the funny part, because I think we do spend a lot of time entertaining because we're not sure
Right.
if we should or shouldn't be. I think the misconception is that if we don't entertain, we're going to miss something. We're going to
Yes.
miss an opportunity. And I think it's good to say, you know what, let me weed out and kind of vet these
Mhm.
opportunities first before I go hands blazing and giving all this opportunity and time, because maybe this is not an opportunity that I need. And I'm savvy enough. I think we learn to trust ourselves
Yes.
and realize that, I can look at this proposal that you give me and figure out if that's what I need or not
Exactly.
without you having to sell me.
Yes.
I don't want to be sold. I like to come to you and say, hey, I think I like what you got. Let me see what we can do about that.
And one other thing I can say is early on in your business, you really don't know those areas that you need to cut back on until you experience it and realize, oh, I could have done this a little differently and scale back in this area, because you're all in at the very beginning. But that's when you need mentorship and you need other people to say, hey, this is something you don't need to necessarily do on the front end. Maybe I would Xerox so many PowerPoint presentations for class when all I had to do was email it to them later. It took me probably 2 years in. And it really was probably the pandemic that made me think about. So that's the kind of stuff that happens when you don't have a business mentor. And especially in the firearm, there was no one else to help me with the blueprint.
Yes, yes, yes. So I hear congratulations is in order. You just celebrated 9 years in
Yes.
January, right?
Yes, I did.
Congratulations. So when you think about how the business has evolved from then to now, what has the purpose of the business evolved to?
So initially, I'm still known as the firearm lady. I'll see people out and they'll gesture, do like a firearm with their finger, and so it's kind of funny. But I remember one of my good friends, Kevin, said to me, "You want to expand so that people just don't focus on firearms." I needed people to see me as the safety lady, which is what I've evolved into, the safety lady. So it's all things related to safety, right? And that's the biggest pivot I think that I've done in the business, is making sure that people just don't focus on firearms. So I'll give you a really quick example. I had applied for the Goldman Sachs program and was denied the first time, and found out later they were concerned because they thought that it was focused on firearms. Now another business was accepted, but they are focused on security, hiring security guards. So it's different. I'm teaching people to defend themselves. They're teaching their business models to protect is protection from a different standpoint. So that was a real challenge, trying to help people to see the bigger picture, safety. And we do have a right to defend ourselves, but more and more women mainly Black women, of course, are coming and going by themselves, maybe single, living alone. Even if they're married, they're traveling to and from places by themselves. So we all have a need to protect ourselves. So that's one of the things, just shifting the narrative from just focusing on firearms, because everybody doesn't want a gun, but you need to know how to protect yourself, and you need to think about what you're doing with your brain when you don't have your gun.
Absolutely. I like that. Talk a little bit about what the Goldman Sachs is,
So the
just so people can know.
Yeah, so the Goldman Sachs 10 KSB, I'm not sure. I think they're adjusting. They did have one focused solely on Black women, but this was a program. It was diverse for business individuals based on a certain income level. You would be able to apply, and I think it was 10 weeks. It seemed like forever. It wasn't that long, but it was a very intense business program to help you learn how to scale your business. Yeah,
Oh,
so it was a great program, made great connections. But I felt like I had to convince them that I wasn't focused on firearms. So I'll give you a quick example. I received a phone call from someone from New York, from Goldman Sachs, that asked me, was I going to open up a gun range, and was I going to be selling guns? And then the next week, I got accepted into the program. So of course, I told him no. At the time, I was not opening up a gun range, and I wasn't selling guns, because you have to be an FFL, a federal firearm license dealer. But again, the second time around, they were still seeming to be concerned about that piece. So because there's not a lot of women, and I was probably the first woman that they had received an application from, trying to educate even business people.
wow, wow, wow. So I want to take a moment to learn about firearms, about your firearm services. So in brief, when I was reviewing your website, um, it seemed like you had a couple of different classes. I just want you to end this gun club that I need to know everything about, okay? Because I need to understand what is happening. So talk a little bit about the services that you do provide and how people can actually participate.
Okay, so sometimes people don't realize what they need until they're presented with something as far as the firearm is concerned. So we have, of course, concealed carry. We have an intro to firearms class for those individuals that are just getting started, and maybe they want to buy a gun and they don't want to go to the next step of concealed carry. We have a gun cleaning class. I bring in an instructor that teaches people how to clean their firearms. We have a draw from concealment class, and that teaches women how to draw their firearms. We have a little bit, our bodies are made differently. We have to move things a little bit just to try to draw our gun sometimes. And so those are some of the classes. I also offer a service for private lessons for individuals, but another service that people have utilized at different times. People have inherited firearms, and their family member has died, and now these guns are in the house, and they're scared of them. They don't know what to do. So we will go to the home, make sure that that gun is unloaded. And if it is loaded, we will unload it. And then we will help catalog the firearms if the person wants to sell them. Some people don't even want to touch the firearms. Now, long guns, I do have an instructor that assists with that. That's not my area expertise, but we do provide that service because you'd be surprised. People pass away, and then granddaddy has a gun in the house that everybody knows is in that drawer, but they're scared to touch it.
Yes,
So that's what
indeed.
we do. And then just education as well, because we want people to understand leaving firearms around and not having them accounted for after your death is just as dangerous.
True.
Because what happens in Black families, so I laugh and tell our class this: first person that gets to the house gets the gun. And that's usually the person that shouldn't have the
That's
gun.
usually the person that shouldn't have it.
Exactly. So we need to be mindful of putting our guns in our wills and saying that my firearms will go to this relative.
Right. Make sure that they're being left to someone who's responsible enough to carry it.
And who is eligible to own a gun.
That's key. Who is eligible to own a gun? Y'all heard that? Because that's the key. You
That's the
might
key.
be responsible, but you might not be eligible.
Exactly.
Okay, we want this to be legal.
Mhm.
Okay, good. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm interested already. I have my girlfriend, Sister V, say she interested too. So we're gonna be calling you soon. Okay.
Okay.
So how here's the thing that I love. Okay, so let's shift the conversation to firearm ownership as a defense option for women because I want to start with some stats that I found. I need you to help me figure out
Okay.
if these are true or not. So ammo.com reports that 25% of women owned firearms in 2024 and it's up 10% from 1980, marking a 13% increase over the past 2 years. Crime Prevention Research Center reports that handgun permit holders have also seen a rise in female participation, with women comprising 29.2% of permit holders in 2023, and that's up from 28.3 in 2021. This data underscores the growing trend of female involvement in firearms ownership and concealed carry. The National Shooting Sports Foundation reports that women accounted for 40% of firearm sales over the past 2 years, reflecting a significant shift in consumer demographics. So, how do these stats sit with you?
Those stats are spot on. We are the fastest growing population of firearm owners. One thing about us, you are the demographic. You said you took class, but you didn't buy a gun. We are very methodical. We will go a year or two researching firearms, testing them out, getting referrals, but we take our time. And when we do purchase firearms, everything comes with it because we're making sure that we are equipped. That's how we do things, right? But men will go out and buy 5 firearms and don't know how to shoot any of them. They will buy a long gun and buy 3 or 4 extra guns and don't know how to shoot the long gun or the handguns. And the long gun you can't carry. So it's the truth. And I love men and I teach men, but I always say, learn the gun that's going to protect you immediately. In your home, you really need, you may need a rifle, shotgun, but you can't turn a corner with the long gun. But once they hear that click click, may make a difference. But the point is, women are the fastest growing population in the firearm purchasing industry, and they know it. And they're
Wow.
appealing to women with guns that have different colors and all of that, which I'm opposed to the color guns.
What you know? What I'm gonna get to why, but I think I know why. I promise. So National Shooting Sports Foundation survey reports that the top two motivations for women owning firearms are self-defense and empowerment and confidence. So let's talk about the self-defense aspect. In 2021, the NSSF revealed that 26.2% of women cited self-defense as the most important reason for owning a gun. 71% of women gun owners identify protection as a major reason for owning a firearm. So most people hear firearm ownership and self-defense and protection purposes and think all they need to do again is to just take the class, get a little license, purchase a firearm, and pray that they actually can survive an attack that they have to use this gun for. Okay. I don't know, and we think that that's it, right? But I think that there's definitely a difference between being a firearm owner and a firearm actually operator, user, okay? Because I I feel like I can own a firearm and really not know how to use it, right? So walk us through what it is to be a firearm owner in the and a user in the general sense.
So ideally, you would do your research by purchasing a firearm and having tested out several. You've landed on the gun that works best for you. No two people will have the same experience with a firearm. Then after that, obviously, you're going to take classes. It could be intro to firearms. It could be concealed carry. And then at that point, you have to decide how often am I going to fit in time to go to the range. So the ownership is not just getting the gun and putting it in a bag and put it on the top of the shelf
In the
in the
closet.
closet.
Mm-hmm.
That ownership is I need to buy all the tools that are necessary. I need a lockbox, a safe. I need a bigger safe if I'm going to buy more guns. Where am I going to put it? So you put it in my home. So you're thinking all those things through. Do I have children? Do children visit me? Do relatives visit me? There are a lot of furniture options on Amazon. So you
Mm-hmm.
can just put in firearm concealment furniture, and you'll see clocks and lamps, all kinds of things. You'll see a
Yes.
Bible. Nobody's breaking in the house to steal a Bible. So you'll
Right.
see a Bible case. The next step is how often am I going to go to the range? And what we recommend is once a month, 50 rounds. That's it.
Okay. That's
Then
not bad.
that's not. And what you know is you can get in and out of the range in less than an hour with
Yes.
50 rounds. What you're doing is showing you're cycling rounds through your gun. Now you know your gun should work. You'll know what to do if you get a jam because you've been using your gun regularly. You'll know that your gun is going to jam if it's dirty because you haven't cleaned it. So you want to clean it regularly, and you want to make sure that you know how to use it. If you need to pull it out, you're not afraid fumbling and bumbling with the gun that you haven't touched in a year or two. You don't ever want to say something is happening in my house. Oh my God, where is the gun?
Where is the
Oh my
gun?
God, how do I load this gun?
And
what
how do I do it? Which way do I pull the trigger? Do I pull it?
Exactly.
Do I do yeah. You
Exactly.
want to know all those
And
dynamics already.
and if you live with people or if you don't, you want to make sure you have a safety plan in place. If you don't live with anyone, you want your family, if they have keys, you have to have a code word. So if they're coming in, they're hollering out this word so you know it's not an intruder.
Right.
And they know that you're, giving out this signal. And then if you live with people, if there's an intruder, you have a code word. So everybody goes to a safe space and they're not running to you because you're going to get your gun.
Well, I love that. I love that. So here's and I love that you say that because one of the things that I was thinking about, and even though I haven't purchased anything, I'm like, where would I put it? How would I use it? What would happen if someone actually broke in upstairs? Because I have a bi-level, and
Mhm.
so my bedroom is downstairs. So I'm like, what are the dynamics if you actually reach that door upstairs and I'm downstairs in this bedroom that only had the door, with the way that how do I position myself to get ready for this impact?
Okay, so one thing I want people to think about is the position of their door and their bed. So, what can you see when the door is open, and what can they see when they open your door if there's an intruder? So, you think like, and I'm not telling you to answer because I don't want you to talk publicly about
Right.
the dynamics of your home.
Dynamics, yeah.
But and that's safety, right? So what I want you to think about when everyone is at home is, if I was an intruder, think like a criminal, right? When I come in, what am I going to see? So if you came in a room, am I immediately going to see the headboard? Or is there a way to position my bed where if I hear an intruder, I know my gun is close, I can drop down on the side of the bed, they can't see me, and there's some cover, right, for you. Then the other thing is do you keep your bedroom door locked? So that's one barrier before somebody jumps in, right, into the room. So those are those kinds of things you want to think about. And then what you want to think about is, do you carry your gun everywhere with you when you're in the home, when you're not asleep, when you're in the kitchen, when you're in the bathroom? Is the gun with you? Because if somebody breaks in the house, you don't want to run around trying to find a gun.
Trying to figure out where it is. Right.
Now, I have heard people say they keep a gun in every room. Now, the reason I wouldn't do that is because you could have a service person in your room not touch that. You might have not have seen or touched that gun for 6 months, right? And maybe if you have not shot that gun regularly, by it sitting, it's probably going to be dry, meaning it hasn't been oiled, and that gun may misfire. So when you need it to work, it might not work because it could have been stolen because you had a service person in your house. You're not going to remember something you don't see. You have to remember that. So I don't need to have a gun in every room. I just need to take the gun with me in every room.
That makes way more. I'm loving it. It makes way more sense. So, what do you think? I want to talk about some of the pros and cons of being a firearm owner, from the perspective of the law, and the social personal perspective, because I feel like it's a couple of different aspects.
So what I tell people is, you have to know yourself. If you know you have road rage, you have a temper, and you go straight from 0 to 100, you need to know that maybe a gun is not your best option, because as quick as you think it's your best defense tool, it could be used against you. Not so much that somebody could take it away. They could take it away from you, but you could use it so recklessly that you now find yourself wound up in jail. You've been wound up and you're in jail because you used it incorrectly, right? It should be where you're reasonably thinking about, is this the first alternative? Now, can people stop and say, can I talk myself out of this situation? I always say, when you see and feel that when you feel like the atmosphere in the room is shifting, you need to leave. I never stay in a place where I feel like, okay, I might have to pull my firearm, because I don't want to, right? No one wants to shoot anybody. Another part is we don't teach people to kill anybody. We teach you to stop the threat. So some people go into it saying, I wish I would. And that's the wrong attitude. We teach and talk a lot about temperament. So I don't take everybody's money. And even once I've kind of noticed that somebody in class may be off center and you can't really talk them down, there have been a couple of times where I've said, I don't know if this is going to work. And then the other part is, those individuals that you might get a phone call if they're involved in a shooting, because a good prosecutor would bring in the concealed carry instructor and ask, what are they doing?
What's the temperament?
Yeah.
What was the training that they got?
And one thing I just want to say is, we don't teach scenarios, because no two scenarios are going to be the same. And you may view something very different than I am. Talking to you about the law and really making good choices, so that in any given situation, you're going to think about what makes sense in this split second, as opposed to, okay, Lynn said, if I do this, then I can do this. No, that'll slow you down. And so, but a lot of instructors teach scenarios, which I don't think is a good practice.
So I know that so everybody, of course, I think all of us here at Intellectual Radio are familiar with my friend and instructor, Julius Chapman, and so we talk about some of the same things. And one of the things that he taught me in our class was, if you think that you're about to be in a place that you're going to need your firearm, then you probably shouldn't be going.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that is really, really, that makes good sense to me, because it's like, well, if I need this, because we're always like, okay, well, it don't matter what I'm doing, I can do what I want to, I go what I want, where I want to go, because I'm concealed and carried, I got my weapon. No, you probably, if you think you need it, then you probably need to rethink whether or not you need to go. Because one of the things that he says, I gotta tell you, whether you're concealed and carry, got all your licenses together, whichever way, when you fire this weapon and you actually hit a target, You're not when he said when the police come on the scene, it's not whether or not it's not a question as to whether or not you're going to jail. It's how long you're gonna be there. Because you're going.
Yeah, and you have to remember you have to be responsible for every bullet and where it lands. So that's that part about kind of assessing everything around you in a split second when you fire that bullet because you can't take it back. And he's exactly right.
Right,
He's
you're
exactly
going.
right.
He's like, you're. I'm telling you, just get ready. He said he always teaches us if you're going once you have to discharge, your best thing to do is to unload your weapon, sit it on the side, and wait for the police to
Hmm.
come. Okay,
Yeah.
because and be ready to be apprehended.
Yep.
Period. It's going to happen.
Yeah, and police and prosecutors have discretion, obviously, at that moment. But hopefully, people have self-defense insurance. They have something and a lawyer on hand, so that they can get out of jail. You're right. Something will happen. You don't know what's going to happen in every situation, but the police are going to come on that scene because a firearm was discharged, and that gun. You're not going to get that gun back.
Ever
Well, I don't want to say ever, but it is usually likely that they're going to hold that gun for evidence for at least a year. I mean, it's taking people some time.
to get their
Yeah, to get
stuff
it.
back.
And you may
Okay.
not always. I don't want to say ever. I don't know their policies, but people have called to ask about I haven't received my gun back. What is the process? I said, I don't know. You just got to call the police station. So
That's interesting. Okay. So, in practical terms, is firearm ownership different for women than it is for men? Meaning, are there other aspects that we need to consider that men don't have to worry about?
yeah, when men wear belts with their pants, it's easier for them to just put a gun on their side and throw a shirt over. But for women, like today, I have on a dress. There are options for you to wear a firearm with the dress. There are a lot of different options for women to carry a firearm, but we choose not to sometimes. And the easiest thing is to throw a gun in your purse. And that is one of the things I can go to my grave with saying absolutely. I'm unequivocally, I'm just opposed to it because if somebody tries to rob you, they're going to
Jeez.
come for your purse,
You is
right?
not getting
And
to
if
that person in
right,
time.
you won't. And what the reality is, if they rob you and take your purse, your gun is in there, so you're defenseless, right? So men don't have to think about that, but you do see more men wearing backpacks. You do see more men wearing crossbodies, and when you go to the range, sometimes you see guys there with the gun in their crossbody, that is around their like their breast part, as opposed to how women usually wear them around their waist.
Right.
A lot of police women used to. I don't know if they still do wear them around their waist, but the concern is, men are carrying guns maybe in these bags too. And so you've seen stories in the news where the police were chasing somebody and they had a bag and then they found the gun in the bag. So we have a lot more options as far as carrying, but we still are limited because I would never carry my gun in my bra. They have a bra holster.
See,
And a
because I
lady,
had
yeah,
questions.
and a lady in Michigan was killed trying to adjust her bra holster and wound up shooting herself. Yeah,
What?
and we have enough trouble fastening our bras anyway. Now you are trying to put a bra, but this is what the reality is. We don't want to dress for our gun. That's what it is. So it is a lifestyle change. Even with fingernails, everything is different for us. When men on the street or the criminals and not, they don't have long fingernails because you don't want anything to impede you getting into that trigger
Yes.
quickly. And so we have to decide, is there a shift that we want to make with how we dress?
Now that is key because I don't think people think about that. I think that people just, especially women, I think we just put our clothes on and figure out where we're gonna put this gun later. I just be
No,
like,
every
what?
day you need to think about. I do every morning. What am I going to wear? And can my gun fit into this outfit? Now, you go to a formal and you're wearing a dress. They have ankle holsters. I mean, but some of the places you go to for a formal, they have a no gun sign. So now you got to make a choice. Am I going to go into this place with this gun, knowing that there's a no firearm sign? But most times, women, will put that gun in their purse, and that is the worst place
You know
to
what?
carry a gun.
I gotta tell you, every time I think about the idea of putting the gun in the purse, just it logically to me, it doesn't make sense because I can't see, even if no one is trying to steal my purse, I can't see me digging through my purse trying to get a firearm out in time to discharge on someone. I just can't see where I can't see where there's the timing
The time.
doesn't make sense
That's
for
right.
me.
It's the timing. And there was a lady in Tennessee that shot her 13-year-old because the daughter went in her purse to get something, or either the mother did, and the trigger was exposed, and she wound up pulling the trigger, and she shot her child. So that's the other piece. When we have purses, we know this as women. If there is a pocket, we're gonna fill it. We're gonna put something in it. So they do have gun purses, but no, I don't know any woman that's just gonna have a purse with a gun. You're gonna
That's
put your
just for the gun.
lipstick. You're gonna
You're gonna
put
put
your
everything,
gum.
yes.
You're gonna put your keys. You're gonna put. You're not gonna want to carry other things in addition to this gun bag. And then you have to be able to get into the bag fast enough, because guess what?
Right.
Most people buy a gun and don't even practice drawing their gun from the holster.
And yes, that is one of the biggest things that I'm always telling him. I'm like, I'm sure that I'm not gonna have a problem actually discharge. Like, I don't feel like I'll have a problem shooting the gun, but I feel like I'm gonna have a problem trying to draw it.
Right.
Like, the draw is gonna be the issue.
Mhm.
Can I draw it fast enough to pull this trigger? I'm okay with pulling the trigger, but can I draw it fast enough to pull the trigger? And I don't know that I can.
And that's why we created a class for that, because it's a little different when we're drawing our firearms.
Okay, awesome. So I know let's shift a little bit and let's talk about the empowerment and confidence aspect of this thing. The NSSF survey indicated that 50% of women felt more empowered by gun ownership. 81.6% agreed that they felt more secure. 74% of women agreed that it's necessary to know how to use a gun for survival. Speaking from personal experience, I remember the feeling of when I decided to take the conceal and carry class, and it was coming off of me having a stalker,
Mhm.
and I was like I didn't want to go home. I'm like, I don't know if I can be in this apartment by
Mhm.
myself because
Mhm.
I used
Mhm.
nuts. I'm like, I ain't finna be on the news. Like, I'm like, I'm not,
Mhm.
you won't be reading about me, right?
Mhm.
But I went and I did, I got the conceal and carry, and I felt like, oh my God, I'm a bad mamma jamma now because I know I got this. Still don't know what I'm doing. Okay. Have
Mhm.
no, I mean, really, really. I mean, if push come to shove and I was forced and I had to handle it, I'm pretty sure I will be fine. But formal training, still have none. And I'm so not sure, right? So talk a little bit about how your training helps women find the next level of confidence beyond taking the concealed and carry class.
So one thing about learning how to shoot, I remember my very first time on the range in the federal officers. Now these were people I supervised, right? And I was in this very vulnerable, humble position, learning how to shoot. And when I shot the gun the first time, we were very close up, on like 3 feet apart from the target, and I shot it and kind of leaned back and I started crying. True story, no problem with transparency. And I said, I'm ready to go home. Just like that. And then my instructor was in my ear, right up on me. He said, you got this, Lynn, you can do it. And him encouraging me made the difference. And do you know, I was um the most senior person on that range, but at that moment I wasn't, because I was in a student role. After that, it made me really think about, how do I want to instruct people? When I started reflecting and starting a business. So when I'm in class, people come to the class shaking. I've never held a gun. I'm scared of a gun. And I tell them my story is where you are is where I was. You can do this. So all throughout our class, I have another instructor, Michelle Payne, Dr. Michelle Payne, and she and I encourage people throughout the whole time. You can do this. So when people finally do overcome that fear, that's that empowerment, that's that confidence. And then to see them join the gun range and come to the practices and learn and continue, and then to see them buy their first gun and then buy the second and the third gun, it's like, oh my God, you got a new gun. Let me
Right.
see.
Let me see.
And it's like men with cars, or whatever. It's like when we would buy shoes, they're buying guns. And that's kind of what's changed in this atmosphere with the gun club, where they feel empowered. They know that if somebody comes in my house, I know what to do. I have a gun and I know how to
And I
use
know
it.
what to do. That's the piece. I know what to do. So really, really quickly, because I'm still trying. I think I know what I want. I think I have it in mind. I've been to the range a couple of times,
Have
and
you
I
shot it?
yeah, yes,
Okay.
I have shot it because I practiced with it at the range. I
Hmm.
don't own it, but I would rent it at the range, and so I think I found what I like. I'm like, I like this one. I like this one, but I gotta go. I gotta go shoot it a couple more times
Okay.
before
That's
I'm
good. That's a
clear.
good practice. That's what I tell people.
Yeah. So, what do you recommend is the best way for someone to select a firearm?
Okay.
Like, how do you? What's the process?
So what I tell people is get recommendations from friends. Don't just go to police officers. They're going to tell you to buy a 40, 45 caliber and this gun,
Yeah, don't
and
listen
that's
to
it.
them. Don't listen. Don't
Right.
listen to them.
And
I tell y'all right now.
well, what I'm saying is I think they have valuable insight into different firearms, maybe, right? But get a list of firearms. And what I recommend to people is I recommend a 9 millimeter. The reason why is during the pandemic, that was the ammo that was manufactured consistently. People couldn't find 380 ammo. They couldn't find 40 or 45. They were calling me, "Do you know where I can?" I said, "No, I only know where you can get 9 millimeter." So I don't ever want a pandemic situation occur where there's a shortage of ammo and I can't get it. So that's why I recommend number one, a 9 millimeter. Secondly, get recommendations from anybody that you know that has a gun. Write it out, ask them what do you like about it. Now, they may tell you, I like this gun for different reasons, but when you go shoot it, you want to know how does it feel in your hand? You want to know, does it feel smooth? You can feel when a gun is raggedy or when it's smooth. It's hard to explain it,
I
but
know what you mean, though.
you really can tell the difference. Now, what I also say is the smaller the gun, the more recoil is going to be in your
Yes,
hand.
look. Woo.
The
And I
bigger
did
the
not know that.
Yes. Now you can get a big gun, so you should get a subcompact. That's for concealed carry. A full size gun is for home, right? Because you may need more rounds. Subcompact, I have a couple of guns that are over 10 rounds, but the reason why it's important, not important, I recommend 10 rounds, maybe 12. When you get into the larger magazines, Illinois has a mandate. It's a restriction of 15. When it's heavier, when it's over 10 rounds, and it can likely jam. So normally, when there's an active shooter, they usually have multiple magazines that are loaded with less than 10 rounds because they want that gun to cycle through every time. So I only have 10 round magazines that I want to carry. Some people carry extra, but the bottom line is when you go to shoot that gun like you did, you went couple of times, go back again, and know absolutely sure that this is it. Because guns depreciate when you buy it, just like cars. As soon as you
Okay.
buy it, that gun is going to depreciate.
Okay.
And you want to make sure you know this is the gun you want. Don't let somebody say this is a good gun for women. Now,
Because
that is the key
yes.
because they make firearms with women in mind, but it's not necessarily that a woman should get this gun. We have had people tell women to get a revolver. Oh, it's easy to shoot. Revolvers can be very hard to shoot, and especially if you don't have a hammer on a revolver.
Is that the thing you?
You pull back, it's the
Oh no, I don't
hammer.
want that.
So a
Mm-mm.
revolver has less firepower. They may have 6 rounds or 5 rounds, and you better get it done in 5 or 6 rounds. But if you can't get it done in 6 rounds, you shouldn't be shooting. So I don't like revolvers for that reason because it's limited capacity and that your hand will get tired because women we don't use our hands as
Yeah.
much. But if you have a hammer on a revolver, you can pull it back each time you shoot, which makes it easier. But the point is, try out as many guns as you can.
So I will say this: I thought, these little cute guns, these little cute little colors. Oh, because
Here we go.
no, because I thought I wanted one. I did. I was like, oh, I want that one because it's all short and it's small and it's pretty and it's purple because that's my favorite color. So, sure enough, he goes out and he gets this gun. He says he wants you to try it. Okay, so he said, I know you want to try it, so let's get you to try it. So I see other women might want to try it too.
Mhm.
So we get to the range, and I'm like, I don't like it at all. Like, I'm telling you, I don't think I fired 10 rounds before I was like, nope, I'm good. I don't ever want it. I don't like it. I didn't like the kickback. It was like, fool. I was like, what is going on here? And I didn't realize that they had the bigger recoil, the big kickback on it. And I'm like,
Recoil. It's
yeah,
recoil.
recoil. I didn't realize that. I wasn't expecting it to do it.
Because when they market guns to women that are a certain color, right? Men are not going to buy a gun that's a color. Maybe a gun might have brown or silver, but they usually market the red. You don't really see red. That's my color. You'll see a Tiffany blue, which is a pretty color. You may see a purple gun or a pink gun. So they're marketing those to women, and they're marketing them in smaller sizes, knowing full well that a smaller gun is going to have more recoil in your hand. The reason why I don't recommend buying a color gun for carry is you don't want people to see your gun. You want your gun to be inconspicuous. So if it's black or have a silver tone, and then one other thing, don't get a gun and trick it out. People will put all kinds of pearls on it, or they'll put I forget the name of this.
Really?
The
They blinging guns
they're
now?
blinging out
That's
the
crazy.
handle, the grip.
I
It's
didn't.
it's really not a wise move. You don't want anybody to know you have a gun. That's the bottom line. And if you need the gun to be cute, make it for home. So if you're going to buy a Tiffany colored gun, and if it's let's say a higher quality brand, they may make a gun that's a certain color, but make sure it's a full size or a subcompact. Don't try to buy a really small gun, because you're going to have I see women all the time struggling because somebody went out and bought them a small gun because she needs this to get started. If I could say one more thing about caliber, 22 22 caliber firearms is what we use for qualification, because we focus on marksmanship and the technique as opposed to caliber size for training. For the NRA's distinguished expert shooter training, we had used a 22. So that lets you know they're not focused on the big gun, they're focused on marksmanship. Men will tell women, go buy a 22. They wouldn't carry it. So this is what you want to ask them. Is this something you would carry? No, you wouldn't. So don't tell me to do it. But you also don't want to try to carry a 40 or 45 caliber gun, because that's going to be a heavier gun, and that bullet is going to be heavier. So you got to think about those kinds of things. What fits you? And you don't want to get a gun that you don't want to carry. You don't want it to be so bulky that you don't want to carry it.
That's what I was worried about. That's one of the things I was worried about when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to get. I'm like, I need to get something that I don't mind carrying. And so far, it's either too big. It was either too big or it was too small. So I finally found something in the middle. I'm like, this I could carry.
Mhm.
This makes sense to me. Now it's about purchasing and then figuring out how to carry it though.
Okay.
Because I still don't know how I would carry it, because I'm small frame, so I don't know where it's gonna go.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's some options. And then I was going to mention one other thing. I think I lost my oh per purchase amount. A good range is $400 to about 650, at the most 700. When you go lower than 400, unless it's on sale, the quality of that gun might go down. I say
Okay.
might because I don't want to disparage any company, but I have seen the difference in a lower price gun when you're in the $200 and $300 range, like low 300s. The quality is different.
Would you recommend that someone buy a firearm from a pawn shop?
No, I don't. I would not recommend you buy a used gun.
So tell us why, because I
Well,
already know why, but tell the people why.
the reason why is you don't know the history of that firearm. You don't know if there are bodies on that gun. Did they trick out the gun? People change out grips and triggers. They do a lot to firearms. So if you don't know the history, that history can come back to you, because once that gun is traced, if I sold the gun to someone and then it wound up in a crime, then now I'm the new owner. Like somebody else is the new owner, they're going to keep coming back to that person, and then they're going to keep tracing that firearm. So I just tell people, buy a gun fresh out the box. The warranty is going to remain valid, because if they've tricked out the gun and all that, you don't know if you're going to even be able to send it back for any kind of repairs.
I love it. All right, guys, you have heard it here. This time has flown. Okay. So, all right. Y'all heard it from the expert. Connect with Giovanna and tell the people how they can connect with you.
So you can connect with me on my website, jmddefense.com, Facebook, JMD Defense LLC, as well as Instagram, JMD Defense LLC. So all of our classes are on the website. If you want a private lesson, you will find that. We do have an intro to firearms class coming up this month. as well as we do the renewal classes for people that already have their concealed carry. The Ladies Gun Club is available. We meet once a month on Zoom, and we also go to the range 3 different times out of the month on the weekends and one day during the week, so that you can practice. We rent out the range when we go, and we always have an instructor. And at our monthly meetings on Zoom, we do bring in an instructor. I mean, not an instructor. We bring in a speaker, or we're talking all things firearms. We're not talking about anything else.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, I have dropped all of her information in the comments of this on my Facebook Live. So those of you tuning in live or watching the replay, you will be able to find her information there. Thank you so much for being with me. I appreciate you guys. This has been Empowering Moments with Coach T right here on IntellectualRadio.com. And I am the Coach T. Keep walking and always just be you. See you next month, guys. And that's
You'll be empowered.